Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am recording this in fabulous overcast Escazú, Costa Rica, on Sunday, the 27th of July in the year 2025. And I welcome you to another fine week of astrology. And it's a little quieter this week, but there's still a lot to be said for the week ahead. I do want to talk about one thing that I have come to realize is going to be something I'm going to need to say for a really long time. And I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to say this again. So this morning I had a lovely lecture I gave about the North and South Node and what they mean and where they are and what they mean, where they show up, where they do in your chart with the Internations group. And I've talked about them before. They're a lovely group. The group I'm lecturing for is run by a woman named Laura Mass, who's in Germany. Very lovely people, and everyone that comes is really a pleasure to talk to. And the question was posed, aside from nodes and everything, we were talking about nodes, and the question was posed about how this one person was saying that ChatGPT gave her different answers than what's in her astrological chart, gave her information that differs than what she got in her astrological chart. Now, maybe she didn't tell me where she got her chart drawn before, whether she went to an astrologer or she got it from astrodienst.com or another such reputable astrology website. And she's telling me that the points on her astrological chart differ from what ChatGPT was sharing. And it was, so now she's concerned her astrological chart was incorrect and the nodes were incorrect. And I'm like, okay. And I just kept shaking my head no. Okay, I have to say it again. I just posted it on Instagram again right after that. ChatGPT does not calculate an astrological chart. It gets it wrong. The information is incorrect. When you get a chart from an astrologer or an astrology website, that's been calculated either by hand, but probably not anymore, but it's calculated by software that is specifically for astrology. And I explained in the lecture that we have software, obviously I have my software because I was showing it on the screen, but also those websites like Astrodienst have an engine that has been programmed in the back end of the website to produce an astrological chart according to the planet's positions and all the sidereal time into Earth time calculations, longitudes of planets, everything according to the way it's supposed to be done. Okay? I have, and most astrologers who've been working on this for many years have an ephemeris, which is a book with all the positions of the planets for a century and a half. I have a book from the 20th century with all the planets' positions, and I have the first half of the 21st century. So this is something that we keep, that I use when I have a question for myself, like, when did that happen last? And I flip back in the ephemeris, because sometimes it's easier to flip the pages than go into my software. But it's all calculated, right? And people did this. Astrologers did this years ago, decades ago, okay? Great. So what does this mean for ChatGPT? I don't know where it's getting its information from. And it's not pulling accurate information. I don't know where it is. I know that it condenses and consolidates what's on the internet, and it can tell you things that's going on in the news and stuff like that if you want a nice bite-sized piece of information. It's good for other things. I use it for journal prompts. It gives me some great journaling prompts. It sparkles up anything that I've written, such as my description from my podcast or maybe part of my blog or something like that. It's very handy for those things. It jazzes it up a little bit, and it's really good to sort through some things that you might be writing or that you're pondering, thinking about. It's great for that stuff, and it does it's very creative. It's a great creativity tool. I like it a lot. But it doesn't do calculations. I would not trust it with my homework for differential equations. I would not. And it probably knows things like basic chemistry and stuff. But I can't recommend it for astrology. And you can go to ChatGPT and say, I have the moon in Taurus. What does this mean? And it will probably write you a description. And for that, it may be really good. Okay? You can go and say, hey, I was telling them, you can go ask it, what is it going to be like with Uranus and Gemini for the next 7-8 years? And it'll probably give you a good description. And I've done that with it too. But it told me Pisces is an earth sign. Okay? That's not correct. And that's really basic astrology. Pisces is clearly the fish, a water sign. So there is no way you should be using this to determine the points of your astrological chart. It told me my moon is in Aries. It's in Gemini. My moon is in Gemini. It is not in Aries. And it's telling me that it is. So now people are confused. And I'm trying to help get people to not be confused, because now they're going to ChatGPT for something really easy. This is my birthday. What's my chart? Instead of tracking down a good website like Astrodienst, and it spits out all this information and it's incorrect. It told me I'm Leo rising with the sun in the 5th house. Okay, if you're an Aquarius, and it told me I'm an Aquarius, it's always the opposite sign from Leo. The 7th house is Aquarius, so your sun is going to be in the 6th or 7th house. Now, depending where I am, it's the 6th or 7th house. I'm in Costa Rica, it's the 7th house. I'm in New York, it's the 6th house. This is the thing. It can't be in the 5th house unless you're using some wacky house system, and I said equal houses, but it's not going to do that. They're opposite signs. For my sun to be in the 5th house in Aquarius, Leo would have to be on the cusp of the 11th, right? Not if I'm Leo rising, it's not. That's 2 houses away. So I'm telling you guys, don't use ChatGPT for your answers about your astrological chart. Go to a reputable astrologer or astrology website like astrodienst.com. There's, and since the dawn of the internet, we've been able to get these things online. People set up software in their website to program these things to be able to spit out this information correctly. Okay? I posted it on Instagram. I told them in the lecture, I've talked about this on my podcast. I've talked about this on Instagram. You can't use it. It's wrong. It told me Pisces is an earth sign. Okay? How much more wrong can you be? I just laughed at that. I just can't believe it. So, if you're a novice at this, it does you well to go get some real information. If you're an astrologer, you're going to see this as a joke. So it is a valuable tool for many things. In fact, Mind Valley is having their AI conference this weekend, and I went to it last year online. It's free. It was very good. And they show you all the tools that different varieties of these AI websites can produce for you on different things. But there is an Astro GPT within ChatGPT. There is an Astro GPT amongst the other GPTs, probably the quantum physics one or the differential equations one. But this is wrong. The information in that Astro GPT is incorrect. So please be careful. If you've got an astrological chart and you've gotten this from a reputable source, then trust the chart. It came from the ephemeris, or generated from that ephemeris that I spoke of. That's where this information is coming from. People calculated this decades ago. And, and probably it could be even, a century ago. People were working on this for a long, long, long time. People produced ephemerises 100 years ago. They've been printing them for years and years and years. And so you have to use that information and take that as valid, because if ChatGPT argues with you and says, no, that's not correct, or says that this is what's in your chart and it's disagreeing, it's wrong. Okay? I went to it, and I was telling them, I went to this I think it was back when Mars was going retrograde. I said, I was thinking to myself, when was the last time Mars was retrograde in Leo? And I could go back into my ephemeris and look, which is what I wound up doing. And I went into the ephemeris and I started flipping through the pages to find the last Mars retrograde in Leo. I don't remember where it is, what it was now, but it was going retrograde in Leo in December, as you know, as you've heard, and then it went back into Cancer, et cetera, et cetera. There was another time in years past that it did that. It wasn't in the 2000s, I don't think. But I had to go back and find it in my ephemeris, because when I asked ChatGPT, it told me it went retrograde in Leo, I don't know, 2023 for about 6 days or 4 weeks or something. Mars is retrograde for 2.5 months. It didn't go retrograde in Leo for 6 days or 4 weeks. It didn't do that. It doesn't do that. And so I wrote back, no, that's incorrect. And it came back to me and said, you're right, that is incorrect. Mars went retrograde, blah, 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 a different time for a different amount of time. Again, incorrect. And I think I went through this 5 times. And it always said very pleasantly and politely, yes, you're right, that's incorrect. It doesn't say, no, I'm right. It tells you that you are correct because you presented it with the facts. So ultimately, my ephemeris won out in the end. The pedestrian method, or let's just say the very manual method, isn't really pedestrian, it's manual. The manual method of looking up where the planets were. This worked. This is what worked, okay? That's my lecture for the first 11 minutes of my podcast. Sorry you had to hear that again. You're probably going to hear me say this again somewhere on Instagram, somewhere on this podcast another time, because it's not going away anytime soon. So I just want to put the information out there and warn people that they are getting incorrect information. And so please consult something reputable or someone reputable, okay? Doesn't have to be me, but it can be me. And if it's me, go to thegoldenastrologer.com and set up your session there, and you'll get a correct astrological chart. In the meantime, we are in the middle of Mercury retrograde, and this is how these things come up. This is definitely a Mercury retrograde experience. This is the wrong thing. So be careful with your information. And do question things during Mercury retrograde. Go back and revisit stuff, okay? And relook at it, okay? This week, we have a couple of things going on that are important. One of them is that Chiron is going retrograde. And that is happening on Wednesday at 10:42 a.m. Eastern Time. Chiron retrograde is really something that is going to take us inward. And Chiron is kind of an inward body anyway. It's called a comet now, as you've heard me say before. Sometimes it's an asteroid, sometimes it's a comet. It's a comet. They're calling it a comet. It's easier, I think, to see it as an asteroid. But anyway, Chiron is not a planet, but boy, does it pack a punch when it transits your astrological chart. And it is at 27 degrees of Aries right now. So if you have planets at that degree of Aries or Libra or Cancer or Capricorn, you're going to probably feel this the most. And Chiron is something that really relates to our wounds, our ancient wounds, our ancestral wounds, our wounds that we deal with every day in our life. Everybody has a Chiron in their chart. And Chiron really is where we go to lick those wounds or care for those wounds or nurse those wounds. And it's going to be now a retrograde period where we may feel closer to those wounds and how we need to assess them and work with them and try to heal them. My teacher used to say it's the wound that never heals, but I think it's the layers of wound that we are addressing. There's layers of wounds. It's in Aries. That's about your sovereignty, your autonomy, your experience of independence, your self that does not people please. And I talked about this a little bit too when we were talking about the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra, which is not Chiron, but it's a similar theme when you're dealing with Chiron in Aries. It's like, well, I got wounded when I tried to express my individuality and my independence and my autonomy. And so think about where in your life that has been wounded, because it probably has, and look at where Chiron is in your astrological chart. This is something that's important. It's where the end of Aries is and where that could be affecting you, and this is where we really want to zero in on this. Chiron's going to be retrograde until January 2nd. So for the rest of the year, until the early part of next year. And so this is the typical 5 month-ish retrograde, right? So it's the end of July. This is the last week of July. August 1st is Friday. And so this is just about 5 months that it will be in that retrograde place. And it gives us the opportunity, affords us that time to really sit back, take those steps back to ponder and contemplate where our experience of wounding really occurred in that region of our astrological chart where the autonomy is, where Aries is. And I highly recommend really stepping into that because you can heal that right now. Now, of course, Michael said the wound that never heals, but I would say layers. So you can peel off these layers of wounds that really are holding you back from something greater in your life, or injuring you in some way and making you sensitive and triggering you in some way. Let's work with that energy. I can feel it already. I can definitely feel it already, but I'm sensitive and I feel these things in advance. And the places where you may have felt this wounding will come up for review in these months ahead. And not that they don't when Chiron is operating in a direct motion, but it goes a little deeper. We go a little more into the out, okay, while we're doing this. So pay attention to that. The same day, Wednesday the 30th, Venus will go into Cancer. Venus likes to be in Cancer. She's all happy and cozy and beautiful and gentle and welcoming and gregarious and hospitable, and brings you into her home and makes you a cup of hot cocoa. And she is going into Cancer. And then what's going to happen a few days later is she's going to slam. You're saying she's making us cocoa, Deb. What is she slamming? She's going to slam into Saturn and Neptune because they're in Aries. And they're in the very beginning of Aries. And they're conjunct in the beginning of Aries at 1 degree and change. And Venus is going to move gently along, swim through Cancer until Friday the 1st, when she is going to make the first square to Saturn at 9:34 a.m. Eastern Time, and then square Neptune at 4:49 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, so in the morning you get one, and in the afternoon you get another. And so this is complicated because no sooner does she get comfortable in this lovely water sign, and she wants to be hospitable, than she's getting Saturn that's saying, hold on, sister, what are you doing? Like, wait a minute. Nobody's going to come to your house. No one's going to come to your party. Nobody's going to go to your dinner party. Or something along those lines. Here's Venus meeting with Saturn in a square, which is a challenge. And she's going to be frantically, like, picking her wine and choosing her vegetables for her lovely dinner arrangement that she's going to have. And Saturn's going to be like, nobody wants to see you, in the back of her mind. And that's the Venus-Saturn. It's the square that says, I'm unlovable. It's the square that says, I wasn't loved, or I'm not loved, or right now, in this moment, I don't feel loved. Or you're having a debate with your spouse or partner, and you're saying, you don't share love with me right now. This isn't feeling loving. I don't feel loved right now. It could be a lot of things along those lines. That's what Venus and Saturn often represent. And they give us pause to say, well, maybe they don't love me. Maybe my family doesn't love me. Maybe so-and-so doesn't love me. Maybe I don't feel loved for real reasons. Saturn makes us think it's real. It's reality. You're not loved. Don't even try it. Don't listen to that. Listen to why that might be happening to you. Where did you get that from? Who triggered you? What triggered you? What memory has it brought back? Sit with it. Lean into it and feel what you are getting triggered about and what's reverberating through your system. That might be a cellular memory. And it's important to recognize it and work with it. Then when Venus squares Neptune, there might be a whole lot of confusion about whether you're loved or not. Or maybe you thought you were loved, or maybe you are loved and you didn't feel like that this morning. Venus square Neptune is like romantic notions where maybe they don't belong. And maybe we're challenged because we're believing in someone or something that isn't going to feed us. And this is the complication with Saturn and Neptune. Saturn is all about restriction and duty and discipline and structure and order and reality. And you better pay attention to reality. That's what Saturn's saying. And then Neptune says, well, what are you talking about? There's a world and a universe outside of this box we're in. And you've got to maybe change your box to embrace and open your heart. So Venus in Cancer is all about your heart. It's all about your heart. Once she gets past Friday, she's going to feel a lot better. Okay? She may have some confusing moments, and we may have some confusing moments, the weekend, Friday, with our heart, what our heart wants, what our heart feels, what our heart's telling us. And maybe you feel like your heart's closed, but both of those planets squaring Venus want you to open your heart. Saturn may make you think your heart should not be opened. It may make you defensive. I shouldn't open my heart here. Maybe you've met someone new and you're going to get into a relationship with them and you're like, maybe I shouldn't open my heart to them. And that Saturn is saying, maybe I'm feeling wrong. And maybe Neptune is saying, no, you really do need to open your heart. We have to live this life with an open heart. And here comes the rain, just in time. So, to talk about Neptune, the rain just in time to talk about Neptune, Venus and Cancer. Cancer is a water sign. And so, I want you to understand that if your heart feels like it's in a dizzying array of should I open, should I close, as we come to Friday, you are right on target. Ride the wave. Ride that Cancerian ocean wave, okay? Work with the energy and work with your heart. Do a heart-opening meditation. It's a beautiful thing. There's lots of those online. Just type in. Now, that ChatGPT can find you and even write for you because she's written some... I have a female voice in mind. She's written some beautiful meditations for me. That's a great thing. So that's a good place to use that tool. But go online, find a heart-opening meditation if you need one, or just sit with yourself, put your hand on your heart and breathe into it and see what it has to say to you. And this is something important to do and to connect with. Connecting with our heart is really important during this week because Venus in Cancer really wants us to be heartfelt. Now, water signs are tricky because they are open as the rain comes back. They are open in many ways. And people will say Scorpios aren't open, but they are open until they're wounded. And they've been wounded, and sometimes we're wounded accidentally, emotionally early on in life. Mommy was doing something, answering the door when we were crying because we threw our bottle on the floor and we think we're abandoned. It's not. It's not. It was some moment, and we get triggered. But we must understand that the heart is meant to be opened and to embrace others and to love ourselves and love others. So, getting into that understanding of where you might be holding back is what Saturn and Neptune are here to show us, especially with Venus. And like I said, Cancer's a water sign. Water signs are open, but they are guarded. And when things like Saturn and Neptune show up, they get supremely guarded. So we can say that this is a time when we might feel really guarded about our emotions, our feelings, our love. And, it doesn't serve us to be guarded, but you can be cautious. You can be cautious and step one step at a time, take baby steps in the direction of love and opening your heart. Any water sign has the opportunity to not tell you what's going on with them. Any water sign can tell you, I'm fine, when they're not. And they want to be private. They're often private signs. Scorpio being the most private. Maybe Pisces will gush with feelings and emotions and sensitivity, and be, weepy. Cancer might just look at you, glare at you, and with those crab eyes, and go back into their shell and, bury themselves in the sand and not necessarily tell you what's going on. You have to kind of coax it out of them, or you have to be a master at weaving through how the guarded water sign handles their emotions so that you can get them to, but they have to feel safe. You can get them to talk. They have to feel safe. Okay? It's safety with them, especially Cancer. Especially Cancer. They need to feel safe with you. And when they feel safe with you, then they will express. I have friends, I've told this story 1,000 times. Their little daughter doesn't tell them what's going on. Obviously, on some level, it's not safe to tell her parents what she's feeling for whatever reason. Maybe she hears them argue or something, But it's because they don't feel safe in, maybe it's the environment. Well, we're out, shopping right now. I'm not going to tell you how I feel. We're out at a cafe. I'm not going to tell you how I feel. When you talk with your kids, when you talk with your favorite Cancerian, it could very well be that it's just a matter of safety to get under that hard shell. Scorpio will sting. Scorpio stings. They're a stinger. If you corner a Scorpio moon, whew, are they going to sting? If they feel cornered in any way, they're going to sting. The fish, they're going to swim away maybe. They're going to escape. But it's so important to allow these feelings to come up. And if you don't feel safe in expressing yourself to someone, go to the page, go to your local notebook, go to your computer and open a document and talk. And, this is a week of sorting out the wounds. Where have I been wounded that I don't feel safe? With that Chiron turning retrograde, wow, this can really feel like something that is very hardcore and right, clear and present in our field in the moment. So you want to acknowledge the wound, acknowledge the fear, acknowledge what could feel dangerous and unsafe, and still rise up anyway. Okay? This is a great week for private work, for meditation, for writing in your journal, for contemplation. It's such a good week for that emotionally and sorting out your feelings. So please do that. Please work with these feelings. And when we're dealing with outer planets such as Neptune and Uranus in a new space, and Saturn to a degree because it's far out, they are giving us the opportunity to work through this, to work through something. Okay, they're not rearing their heads to kick us in the face and blacken our eye. It may feel like that, but they are there to help us integrate something new and to open to something new and to clear the old. And we spend half our life navigating our childhood traumas, and then we have to reopen again and work through things. But I believe we bring stuff in from another life. So there's that as well. There's things that linger in our field. And, I'm, as you know, having Pluto to my sun. It hasn't even gotten there yet. But I can already see where it's allowing me to own my power, where it's going to change things dramatically for me going forward, where a new level of life is coming forward. And so this is so important that we recognize outer planets are there to help us. It may feel like hell while we're going through it, but that's when we're resisting. We got to open to whatever it is they want to show us. And what they are giving us, they're giving us an opportunity to open to something. And that's exactly what Neptune and Saturn are doing this week when Venus comes to greet them. They they are giving us an opportunity to go deeper and look more profoundly at what we have going on so that we can open and we can go to the next level of our lives, whatever that is. Hey, look, you want more money? Venus is money. You want more money? You got to deal with your fears, your anxieties, and your limitations around money. That's Saturn. Hello. Neptune, where did I spend it all? This is just as valid for your financial life as it is your emotional life. And so if you want to gain in areas of your life, whether you want kids and you're looking for the right partner to have them with, whether you need to make more money, want to make more money, want to take on the world, great. But you have to deal with the outer planets that are going to ask you to go higher. And that's what they do. That's what they ask us to do. Go higher so that we can be the greatest expression of ourselves and our authenticity and be that big, bright, radiant self as we go into the next level of our lives. Don't let them beat you senseless into submission, or anyone else for that matter. Don't let this be a representation of an ugly episode in your life. Go solve the things from the past with this. Well, that Neptune transit really kicked my butt. Yeah, well, you have the power to undo any butt kicking. You can own your power with all of them. It doesn't have to just be Pluto or Mars. You can own your power with all of it. What's the vision you have of your life with Neptune? What do you need to do to achieve that vision? Where are the obstacles, says Saturn? So they are there to help us. They are there to uncover and create something new. That's what outer planets do. They come in and it's a sweeping change. You have to use the energy wisely. Don't just let yourself sit in the chair and get smacked around by the tornado. Let them work with you. Go and get a deeper understanding of what an outer planet transit looks like. And for that, you can use ChatGPT. Hi, what does Pluto to the sun look like? You can do that. You can find out, but you're better off going to an astrologer still. But in a pinch, you can read about it, and you can read a good astrology book by any one of the good astrologers. If you need references, just let me know. You can contact me through info@thegoldenastrologer.com or deb@debmcbride.com and say, hey, Deb, what astrology books do you recommend for someone who's going through a Neptune transit, et cetera, et cetera. These are tools and resources we have. Use the planets as resource, as something that is going to give you an opportunity to use the energy to change. Change your life and get what you want and define what you want and then go get it with the assistance of the outer planets. They're here to help. We aren't meant to sit through them and suffer. We want to cross that river of change. Okay? Let them be the lifeboat that takes us there. Pluto is going to show you where you go into the underworld and you claim your power. Neptune is going to show you your biggest vision, your greatest dream. Uranus is going to show you where you're actually brilliant and you didn't give yourself credit. Go get it. Go get that next level of your life and allow these transits to bring you to that other side of the river of change. Okay? Meanwhile, Mercury's still retrograde. It's going to meet with the sun on the 31st, this Thursday, because that means we're sort of in between the midpoint of the retrograde, because it will go direct on August 11th. So we've still got a ways to go, but by Thursday we'll be in the point where Mercury meets with the sun. And that could be a change, a turning point. So work with yourself again, journal. Mercury's about writing, speaking. Let yourself speak thoughts. Let yourself express something maybe that it didn't have the ability to express before. Maybe recognize something that you didn't recognize before. So yeah, very good transit, that Mercury Sun. And if you want a session with me, because I'm a real astrologer and I'm not ChatGPT, you can reach me at my website, thegoldenastrologer.com, click book online, and you can set up a session with me. I also do a 5D Reiki, which is very healing, very soothing, clears obstacles, clears your energy field. Boy, does it clear your energy field and prepare you, especially if you are having a big astrological transit from an outer planet. It's a great thing to get the Reiki done, because then you are feeling, like you're casting off a layer of debris. And I am available for mentoring for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And I welcome you into my world, and we use all sorts of tools if you'd like to go deeper with me. Have a beautiful week. This is the last week of July. Can you believe it? August starts Friday. I thank you so much for listening. Gratitude to each and every one of you. And I will see you on the internet. Many blessings for the week ahead. Much love.